of Hartford Baptist Church, and welcome to episode 10 now, I think. If not, I'll fix the logo or the icon to be correct. So this episode's late. Sorry about that, but we'll get caught up. I'll most likely post two today. But we're finishing up. No, we're not finishing up, but we're in the middle of chapter 4 on this episode. We're going to do 9 through 12. And this one should go pretty smooth, pretty quick. Let's jump right in here. Now concerning brotherly love, you have no need for anyone to write to you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love one another. For that indeed is what you are doing to all the brothers throughout Macedonia. But we urge you, brothers, to do this more and more, and to aspire to live quietly and to mind your own affairs, and to work with your hands as we instructed you, so that you may walk properly before outsiders and be dependent on no one. All right, and this little paragraph, I really think Paul's got one main idea, but of course he's got little sub themes throughout it. But some of the, he's encouraged them like, hey, you are showing love. We're happy about that, but do this more and more. And here's some ways to show love: to aspire to live quietly. What does that mean? That does not mean you don't speak in your life. In the day of Paul, we have secular writers who would use the quiet life to be opposite of evil, an evil life. So a quiet life would be a life where you showed love. You didn't cause trouble. You weren't stealing your neighbor's stuff. You were the good neighbor, kept your kids in line. And right after that, he says, mind your own affairs. You minded your own business. So what does he mean by that? This would be not being that nosy neighbor. This would be worrying about, your life, your family's life, perhaps your church life, your business. You don't worry about somebody else's, business as like retail business. You don't worry about somebody else's retail business. You don't worry about somebody else's family. You don't worry about your neighbor's marriage, and there is exceptions to this, and then I'll explain that. Now, if you have your neighbor approaches you, you have a conversation, an opportunity shows up where you're able to help them with their business, that's different. It's different to be invited and welcomed into someone else's affairs to help them. That's not what Paul's talking about here. He's talking about people inserting themselves into the lives of others, and really these terms in the Greek that are used are more political terms, especially mind your own business. This is one thing, and we see this a lot I was going to have to give an example of Paul's day, but I'll just do an example of our day. We have, especially in the Portland area, Portland's a hot spot for this, where we have a lot of Antifa protests, people going out and just, for their cause and whatever their cause. Some of them don't even know what the cause is, and they just go and they tear things up. You've seen the videos of them assaulting old people, the elderly who are just trying to walk across a crosswalk. They get knocked down, kicked around a little bit, because the younger people basically have a lot of free time on their hands and nothing to do, so they feel like they can do something important by going and making a lot of noise, breaking some glass windows, and pushing people to the ground. Little mob action. This is what Paul's talking about here when he says, mind your own business. There is a political element to this. He's not saying you can't go out and vote and do things like that in our society, but these violent protests, you just basically having nothing else to do but to cause trouble. He's saying don't do that. Of course, he follows it up with, and to work with your hands as we instructed you. Those who have no jobs, no responsibilities, get bored easy. And they're the ones who tend to cause trouble. On both sides of the political aisle, they just got nothing else to do. Paul's keep mind your own business. Keep busy, work with your own hands to provide for yourself. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but in 2 Thessalonians, Paul develops this idea further, encouraging the brothers and the sisters of the church, people of the church, to work for their own food. Now, and he says, which we'll get, I'm not going to go too far into it because we'll wait till we get to 2 Thessalonians, but to paraphrase him, if a brother is able to work but he's able to work but won't go to work, then he doesn't eat. And what Paul is saying is he doesn't qualify for church assistance. He doesn't qualify for our help to feed him. If he is able to work and provide for himself and chooses not to, we're not responsible to take care of that man. Paul's not talking about those who can't work, those who we consider to be disabled, handicapped. Those we can, the widows, elderly widows, those we can and should take care of. But when you have a 25-year-old man who won't go to work and wants to go out and bust windows at the Starbucks, and then comes to the church and asking for money, no, we're not required to give him some. In fact, Paul says, do not let him not eat if he won't go to work. But Paul expects believers to provide for themselves and not take advantage of the church. And I'm sure you've had someone who just in your life who has asked for something and you've willingly helped them, then they ask again, then they ask again, and they ask again. They start taking advantage of you. And that affects your feelings toward them, causes division, especially if it's in the family or friendship. That friendship or family relationship starts to dissolve because they are taking advantage of you, and you know it. They know it, but they continue to do so. Paul doesn't want this to divide the church. So the expectation is everyone provides for himself if you are able. Of course, that assumes a job is there as well. Of course, another reason he gives is so that you may walk properly before outsiders and be dependent upon no one. So believers shouldn't be, and this could be a proverbial statement for the whole world, not be dependent on anyone. If you're a kid or even a teenager living at home still, this may not apply to you yet, but adults, be dependent on no one. I'm not referring to your spouse or a fellow adult in the family. But don't be depend. You shouldn't have to depend on the government to eat. Now I understand that some of us have life situations where we need the government's assistance, we need the church's assistance, and I understand that. But if you are able to provide for yourself, you should provide for yourself. Those are the people I'm addressing there. But he says so you can walk properly before outsiders. Paul when the world looks at the church, he doesn't want the world to see us as a bunch of grifters, people who just got their hands out trying to get something and seeking things from others. He doesn't want the church to be seen about money, about people asking for money, which at times it seems like perhaps we do ask for money too much. But that's not what he wants to be. He wants people to come to church people to look at the church and not see us as a bunch of people with our hand out just wanting their money. And we're going to stop there because the next verse completely changes topic, and we will save that for the next episode. God bless.